Once upon a time, the Indianafever franchise experienced a remarkable turnaround thanks to Caitlinclark, a young superstar whose talent and charisma transformed their struggling team into a national sensation, filling arenas, boosting TV ratings, and igniting passionate fan engagement. Yet behind the scenes, their leadership seemed blind to the true reason for this success, opting instead to make tone-deaf remarks about building an enduring brand akin to Apple while publicly downplaying Clark's importance, an approach that baffled fans and analysts alike, because in the world of sports, the blueprint for lasting success has always been to embrace and maximize your star talent rather than diminish it. Legendary franchises like the Lakers, Bulls, and Warriors built their entire identities around their generational players, understanding that greatness attracts fans, media attention, and long-term relevance. But the Fever's leadership seemed to believe that by spreading the spotlight and talking about diversifying their brand, they could somehow secure their future without fully appreciating Clark's impact, an illusion that became painfully evident when fans took to social media to criticize the franchise for their ignorance, especially as Clark's own struggles on the court, fighting systemic issues, playing in an offense that didn't maximize her strengths, and dealing with teammates who didn't pass, highlighted how much she needed organizational support. Yet instead of addressing these problems, the team doubled down on their misguided branding plans, further alienating fans who saw her as the true engine of their resurgence. Meanwhile, Clark's presence had already transformed the league. Her jersey sales skyrocketed, her highlight reels went viral, and her influence expanded the audience for women's basketball far beyond what anyone had imagined just a few years earlier. Yet the Fever's leadership, more concerned with protecting their fragile brand than celebrating their star, publicly questioned her significance, hinting they wanted to spread the wealth and avoid over-reliance on her, which only fueled speculation that she might leave if they continued to undervalue her. Other markets, like New York or Boston, would have embraced Clark wholeheartedly, building their entire franchise around her. But in Indianapolis, they seemed determined to manage her stardom rather than elevate it, risking losing her entirely and damaging their long-term prospects. The irony was sharp. By trying to avoid dependence on Clark, they were making themselves vulnerable to losing her altogether, especially as players around the league recognized her greatness. Teammates like Sonia Citrin, who expressed excitement about sharing the court with her, understood that Clark's talent was an asset that elevated everyone. Yet the Fever's leadership seemed to ignore this reality, more focused on brand diversification than nurturing their most valuable asset. The league's evolution meant that superstar players now wield significant power, and teams that fail to recognize and support their stars risk losing them to markets that will, with some markets eager to build their entire identity around Clark's stardom and maximize her impact. The franchise's misguided comments and their timing, coming amid Clark's on-court struggles, only worsened the situation, as fans and media began questioning whether the Fever truly valued her or understood what made her special, and whether they would be willing to support her through systemic issues that hindered her performance rather than publicly questioning her importance. This attitude threatened to drive Clark away, especially when her contract situation allowed her to consider other options, and other teams with a clearer understanding of how to build around talent were ready to swoop in. The league had changed, and players now had leverage, making it clear that teams who treat their stars with respect and build their brands around their talents would thrive, while those who undervalue or diminish them risk irrelevance. The Fever's leadership, seemingly blind to this reality, continued to focus on superficial branding strategies that ignored the core truth that Caitlinclark was the franchise's engine, their reason for revival, and the key to their sustained success. Their failure to recognize her value was not only a strategic mistake but a dangerous gamble that could cost them dearly, as fans, players, and the broader basketball community watched with growing skepticism. Meanwhile, other organizations understood that embracing their stars, supporting them fully, and building around their greatness was the ultimate recipe for success. Yet the Fever seemed intent on managing their star rather than celebrating her, risking that someday soon, Clark's talent would find a team that truly appreciated and maximized it. The irony was undeniable. In trying to protect themselves from over-reliance, they were actually making themselves more vulnerable to losing her forever, and the league's lesson was clear. When you have a once-in-a-generation talent like Clark, you don't diminish her importance. You elevate her, support her, and build your entire future around her impact. Or risk becoming just another team that got lucky but failed to understand why, ultimately, Their success depended on recognizing and embracing their stars.